This is season 10, and this season we're focusing on the people who make data work, the data professionals shaping how business is run. From data engineers and scientists to stewards, analysts, and architects, these roles don't work in silos. They collaborate, balancing trust, governance, scale, and speed to turn raw data into real impact. Because data professionals aren't just supporting the business, they're driving it forward. This season, we'll explore how ideas become impact, the decisions, the day-to-day realities, and the challenges of building data-driven organizations. This is Let's Talk Data. Let's talk about the work that makes data matter.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of Season 10 of Let's Talk Data. And this year, we're really focused on data professionals, and we're so lucky to have two very fabulous data professionals with us. So today's Let's Talk Data podcast, it's about a day in the life of a data steward. And we're going to go a little bit behind the scenes and look at how these, I think I could call them data guardians, right? How they help to ensure that the data is trusted. So my name is Corey Birkenes. I'm from SAP Product Marketing, and I'm going to be the host for today's podcast. But the stars of the show, we have Raleigh and Grigor, data professionals from Coca-Cola, data stewards. So welcome the two of you. And we also have one of my favorite podcasters is Tina Rosario from SAP. She's a CDO in Europe, and she's joined us as well to chime into the discussion. So to start off, Raleigh and Gregor, could you just introduce yourselves? Tell us just about your role, just a short one, and we'll get into it more. So Raleigh, if you want to go first.
Yep, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Raleigh Tsadakova. I am a data steward leading a team of data stewards in CCP. I've been in this role for 3 or 4 years now, and it's been a very exciting trip indeed.
Awesome. Gregor?
Hey everyone, I'm Gregor. First of all, thank you for having us, Corey and Tina. It's a great opportunity to talk about this kind of a new kind of role that's emerging within this industry. So I'm Gregor, data steward for CCP, and I've been in this role for 4 years now. I'm pretty sure I was the first data steward CCP got into. So yeah, and I've been in CCP for 7 years now, and yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Tina?
Congrats CCEP. I'm Tina Rosario. Yeah, I'm, as Corey mentioned, the Chief Data Officer for SAP across Europe. And I myself used to run our own data stewardship program that we created at SAP inside of SAP, which was a lot of fun. Seems like years ago.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get into it. I think this question is a good one, but I would like you to describe what you do in one sentence, and that's a challenge. So think about it for a moment. So if you had to describe it in one sentence, what would it be? So Gregor, you go first.
I have a very fast and concise answer. So what we do is we look at data every day. There hasn't been a day I haven't looked at data tables or systems. So this is our core activity in our stewardship role.
And tell me where you kind of sit in the organization. Are you located in IT, or are you more kind of aligned with an LOB?
Good question. So we're not IT, we're more LOB within finance, but for sure the data we look at is very cross-functional and varies across BU. So it affects all the stakeholders of the company, I'd say. But officially we sit in finance.
And tell me a little bit about how you work with, because you're cross, but how do you
Very
work with
cross,
those
yeah.
other LOBs? Data stewards in the other LOBs that you interact with, or are you working with the business owners?
It could be everything. So we had cases where it's business leads that interact with us. It could be data stewards. It could be project leads from other stakeholders. So it's a variety of people we communicate with.
All right, Rila. Ria, how would you describe what you do in one sentence?
I would say that we help with the creation and the usage of data assets. And I really hope that data asset as a term is more or less familiar to people who are listening. But in case it's not, so those are data objects that are structured in a way that is appropriate for a business purpose, and the business purpose would ideally will be cross-functional. So one data asset, for example, a client or a customer asset, would be used successfully with in many different departments.
And so take me through a typical day to day. I mean, what does your typical day look like? What are your main activities? Do you have some kind of things that you kind of roll through every day, or does it differ every day?
I would say it differs, but not that much. So our main stakeholders would be projects or SMEs that are trying to use the data assets in a certain way or are experiencing some sort of problems with them or challenges or just have questions. So when we enter our computers, we will just look through the email, see what meetings are scheduled with different projects, and make sure that we try to address any issues that are escalated to us. I know that maybe it's a common mistake, but we're not actually dealing with problems that are business as usual problems, like there is a missing piece of data here and I can't place my order. This is not what we do. What we do is we try and make sure that the order data asset, if that exists, so the order data asset is used properly by project X, Y, and Z, and that they are all happy with it.
So you get to root cause analysis then, trying to fix it at the source?
Yeah, at the source, or the logic that actually builds the data asset product. We can help with both.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, source and then transformations that happen. And lineage is very important in that perspective.
Yeah.
Tina, I mean, listening to Lem, what do you think? What do you see?
I really love the idea of looking at data as an enterprise-wide asset, right? Kind of breaking the silos of a line of business. But to me, that also correlates to business value. And so I was wondering, how are you prioritizing against that value journey, right? Where you have a variety of different assets, you've got escalations, lots coming your way. But I'm sure that you must choose, right, which project, which issue you want to tackle first, and perhaps that's tied to the value of that.
Gregor, do you want to comment?
Yeah. So indeed, we have assets that are more important than the others because they're used by many stakeholders. So assets that we steward for, and we have other derivative assets that are less important, and projects, of course, that are more important than the others. So we have a data governance team that govern this, and so feedbacks to us what should be tackled first and what after. But we can analyze this ourselves as well and see what we can support first as a more critical kind of action.
Tina, yeah, and comment on that in just terms of having, technology is one thing, having data stewards is another thing, right? But the organization and how important that is to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to the challenge of prioritization around a bit of, who screams the loudest, which project is the one that is, being represented up to the board level. But I really believe that that we are able to, from a data lens, we're able to see the forest from the trees. It's not just data that's being consumed by a specific project, is it? It's really, as we said, an asset that the entire company needs across various lines of business, particularly when you're talking about master data that that is, again, consumed by lots of different processes. And I think that's a great lens and a great way to take a look at it is, which processes are dependent on this data to be of a certain level of quality in order for that process to execute end to end. And those processes and those analytics and those different consumers of the data are very often, across the enterprise. I really also like the reporting into a different line of business. I think that gives you a different set of leverage, particularly in the finance area, because I find that the finance consumers of data respect and value quality, structure, project priorities. I think they really get it. I don't know about your experience, but in my experience, I always say, if the finance team are the biggest friends of data.
I think the data teams are the biggest friends of data. I've never seen.
True.
Yeah, so whoever has touched any data, they know that they want it done correctly, and any exception, any workaround is more painful to them than anybody else. So if there is a rule that can be applied, automated, any derivation, anything, they would be the first to suggest it.
So, Raleigh, I'm going to shift a little bit, and I want to ask you, which part of your role as a data steward feels the most misunderstood or underappreciated by others in your organization?
Oh, I think the hard conversations and the implied pushback that we have to give at some cases. We are acting as SMEs for some of the projects or for some questions, matters, desires that people have towards the data. We don't agree with some of them, and if we believe that something is not in the interest, not only of the data, but only from the process point of view or even the business, or we question the value of a certain action, then we feel obliged that we should push back in a healthy and constructive manner. That's not easy, and that leads to more conversations, more time being invested, and that's not an always easy conversation. So that's the one I feel challenging.
And how about Gregor? What is the biggest challenge you face?
I could say the same thing as Ralitza just mentioned. So ultimately, projects are gonna push the project, and stakeholders are gonna push their business case without having a knowledge on how data works. But ultimately, behind every piece of data, there's a process, right? There's a rule that was implemented for a certain activity. So the pushback that we get has to be confronted to what this piece of data actually represents, right? So again, changing the data, changing a piece of data, it's not as easy as people think it is. There's always something behind the data.
Yeah. So you mentioned process. So what would you say is how are you contributing to process optimization?
I'd say process optimization is not our biggest focus, although we're focused about it, right? But it's something we stumble upon when we investigate or analyze some data. We see some data and we tell ourselves, maybe this data would look better and would be better off if it's this way, not this way, right? Because the business and the activity behind this piece of data would work better. So I wouldn't say that the optimization is our core focus. It's something that happens after we analyze and investigate some kind of work.
Oh, that makes sense as a part of your just natural
Mm-hmm.
part.
It
Anything
just comes
to add?
after,
Yeah, I was just going to add about, I think what I'm hearing, I really like it. It's around education and enablement. So I think, and a question, is that something that you would consider as to be a significant part of your role, is to educate and to enable?
If we have a chance to give more information, to get more information ourselves, educate even ourselves, this is the best case scenario. Otherwise, we can do our job. We're not, well, despite the fact that we're called data stewards, we're not focused only on the data. So I think that the whole CCP believes in process optimization. So it's expected from everyone, regardless of their role. So if you stumble upon something you could improve or suggest an improvement for it, it doesn't have to be you to do it, but you can certainly tell someone and suggest an improvement.
Initiate it,
So yeah, definitely. And from that point of view, it is very good that we have a holistic approach. It's not only the data that we care about. We care about how much it costs to get that data in there, how much it costs to maintain it. Is it worth piling more and more data on already the very vast database that we all have? And probably less is more at some point. So we try to be looking at the whole picture and not just our small pond of actually very large data lake, but looking at the whole process is definitely something that we struggle to do and we try to do every day.
I love that. So Tina, I know that you have a nice relationship with the chief data officer at CCEP, Laya, I believe, right? So tell me a little bit about her leadership. How has she evolved? How have you helped her evolve? I mean, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, she's a rock star on her own. My experience with her was quite interesting from the SAP perspective because we met at an event, and when she learned that I was with SAP, she was like, I need to learn more about SAP because CCEP is embarking on a significant transformation with SAP. And so that's really how it started, was with an idea that in her role that she needed to be aware of this project and creating a data work stream and understanding what the business challenges were related to SAP specific data. And then she created a project team and brought in the right data stewards and started to work with the project to accelerate this transformation of data and processes. And it was super impressive the way in which she engaged with the business, but I think the sense of curiosity that she had about SAP and understanding, what the objectives were, what's the best practices, quite open-minded, and I think that translated also into the team and into the project overall.
Anything to add, Riley or Gregor?
I think we felt an immense amount of support from Alaya and from the data governance team overall, and their bird's eye view and involvement whenever it was needed.
People to look for when we trying to prioritize projects and other initiatives like that. So yeah, definitely huge involvement from their part.
Good leaders always so important, and just the role of the chief data or chief data and analytics officer, such an important role within the organization, especially with in the age of AI, right? Or advanced analytics.
Absolutely.
All right,
Correct.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to add that one of the first conversations I had with Laya, we were talking about AI, and she said, Tina, we've been doing AI here at CCEP for years. This isn't new. We've been, I thought, there you go, right? Leading the way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, now I'm gonna shift gears again, just and kind of this is kind of our end segment. I just want to spend some time talking about the data itself. So, how do you feel? How good is the control of data silos in your organization?
Good question. So, our function is very cross BU, right? But every BU has its own kind of process and own way of working because, historically our company was evolved BU after BU. And so each of these siloed BU has its own kind of KPI and own kind of data data monitoring. And I think each of these countries monitor their data pretty accurately and pretty robustly and at a very granular level, right? So we have over, I don't know, 1,000 controls that help us, deliver KPIs on these key data assets and key data attributes. And I think this is done in a very, very good, robust manner.
I see. Raleigh, anything to add there?
I don't believe we have that much data silos as gaps in the knowledge or understanding. We can easily access the data, but it's not always that easy to understand of that very specific field or what it does, why is it important. So that is my experience so far.
So do you have a data catalog?
Yes, we do.
We do,
You
yeah.
do. Okay, good. Yeah, a very important technique to be able to understand, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And which type of data would you say you're supporting more? Is it the goal of making sure the business processes flow end to end, seamless, or is it more an analytical purpose? Curious. Either one, if you jump in.
I'd say it's both, because our area of function is customer service supply chain. So it's both analytical and it's both the business processes that emerge after this data is utilized and transactioned. So I'd say it's kind of both kind of domains.
Yeah. Tina, you made a point earlier about liking the idea that they're aligned with a line of business as a data steward, that they're supporting that. How important do you think that is that a data steward is more aligned with the line of business versus IT centrally? And maybe there's twofold there. I don't know. Just
no. It's
give
a
me some
classic
thoughts.
question. It's a classic question. I get it all the time from CDOs and from others as to, what's most optimal in terms of reporting and organizational. And the answer that I feel resonates is it doesn't really matter. What matters is, where do you get the sponsorship? Where are you being able to drive influence? Who's most supportive of the work that needs to be done? Who's most influential across the business? And that person can sit in any business area or in IT. This most senior is best, of course. But I don't think and to your earlier point about leadership skills, right? Great leaders will surround themselves with smart people and hardworking people, and as data is an asset that spans across the enterprise, also I think influence is such an important trait, right? Somebody who can really kind of see the end-to-end strategy and understand how does data enable that, and then being able to drive and affect change, again, regardless of where they sit in the organization.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then just for any CDOs or potential CDOs out there, executive sponsorship is critical to your data program. Yeah, and finding the right people in the business to do that. Yeah. So what sort of tooling, specific to data governance, do you have to support your role as a data steward? So you talked about the data catalog. You can add to that master data management, data preparation, data remediation. What kind of tooling are you working with to help facilitate your role ensuring, trust in that data?
Well, so we had the data catalog already mentioned earlier in the podcast, but also our core enterprise system tools, so SAP systems and other systems that store our data and that are also cross-functional in our interface for most part. We also have some master data governance tools, so the MDG part of the data. So our workflow engines, our validation of data, all the business rules that are stored there based on what the business give us as inputs in order to implement said logic behind a piece of data. And of course, the quality and validation tools. So all our KPIs monitoring, which is done in a separate system as well, and which is unique to, I mean, it's not unique, it's unique in CCP, but it's, again, cross-functional, it's cross BU'd again. And on top of this, all the analytical part is stored in a unique data platform that every stakeholder can use at will, right? So if they have a specific need for reporting or for a specific project, they can consume this data in this unified data platform.
Love it. And that is leading edge, the idea of a unified data platform. So
exactly.
yeah, oh, exactly. Raleigh, anything to add?
I don't recall if I heard now data lineage, but we do have that capability. And yeah, also very important, the data models, so the transformations are also exposed and accessible to the stewards, to the data architects and modelers. So every asset we can see where the data comes from very clearly, both from technical perspective and described in a more business language, more human readable way.
Love it.
That's
Tina,
excellent. Yeah,
yeah,
that's best practice right there. That level of transparency and that level of empowerment to the data stewards, I think, is leading edge, right? You want to be able to understand the full breadth of the data that you're supporting from the point of creation all the way through the life cycle, as well as I very much appreciate the business definitions and the use of business language, real natural language to help people. This goes back to my point around education and enablement, because it's not just about your job, but it's about educating the organization so that you can reduce errors going forward, try and, keep things at bay, so that you're not repeating and fixing and, constantly in cleanup mode.
Love it. So with that, I think that's a perfect wrap up for us. So I want to thank you, Raleigh, Gregor, and Tina for sharing your thoughts and experience. It's been wonderful. And thank you to everyone that's listening to our SAP Let's Talk Data podcast, really discussing kind of behind the scenes, the day in the life of a data steward. And I encourage everyone listening to look at the additional resources available within the description of the podcast. And then also, please comment. What else would you like to hear related to data professionals and experience and best practices? And then subscribe to the series to stay tuned for new episodes, as well as get caught up on some you may have missed that could be good. Thanks again, and be well, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Data. If this episode sparked something for you, we want to hear about it. The questions you're asking, the challenges you're navigating, and the work you want to go deeper on. You'll find additional context and resources in the show notes if you want to go deeper. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and stay tuned as we continue exploring how data professionals turn ideas into impact. Thank you for being part of the conversation.